Welcome back. Now, the 13th World Urban Forum is expected to take place next month, 17th. But before that, the second African Urban Forum is going to be taking place on the 8th of April, this particular month, that is next week, here in Nairobi, here in Kenya. Now, the rising cities in the world is something that the United Nations is really calling out for, saying that we really need to take a look at how the cities are being structured. Tonight, Ambassador of Azerbaijan to Kenya, Sultan Hajiev, joins us to tell us more about the World Urban Forum and what we should be expecting. Balozi, thank you very much for your company here tonight. Let me start off first with what we expect next week at the second Urban Forum happening here in Nairobi. What are your thoughts about even the preparations for that?
Well, we believe the African Urban Forum will be a valuable opportunity for the countries of the continent to get together to discuss a number of the most pertinent issues related to various aspects of the urban development agenda, but most importantly to look at some of the practical achievements or solutions that are currently available, that exist. I'm talking about tangible things, the things that can be touched, the things that can be seen. If we refer to experience of Kenya being the host of the second African Urban Forum and being one of the flagship countries in the field of sustainable urban planning and development, as I mentioned earlier, there is a very important program that the Kenyan government cares a lot about, and that's an affordable housing program.
Yes.
One thing I can tell you, of course, I'm not an expert in urban planning or city development as such, but this is something you can go and see. This is something that is not limiting to statements. This is something that is not limiting to resolutions or declarations. There are real results, and this is a life-changing experience. And we believe that these kind of initiatives are extremely important, including for other parts of the world, here in Africa, in different regions. We believe this is a very results-oriented approach. You were mentioning, again, climate-related issues.
Yes.
There is another important initiative, which is actually a multi-stakeholder initiative, which is building climate resilience for urban poor. And Kenya is playing a very important role here as well, making a number of resource mobilization efforts to try to make sure that whenever climate-related issues are resulting in some most undesirable consequences, the poor, who are the most vulnerable by definition per se, are better protected, and there are mechanisms and arrangements in place to soften the impact and prevent major disruption or some of the most unfortunately reversible consequences of such developments. So, cutting a long story short, it's going to be an important event, bringing together a number of people, and we believe some specific recommendations can be made, important discussions can be started, and some of those discussions will then migrate to Baku for the follow-up. And as I mentioned earlier, once again, we want to see some practical decisions that will be transformed in some developments on the ground, something we can refer to when we're talking about making difference for city residents, for city planning and for city development. And this issue was mentioned in the previous footage that we've seen on the screen, making sure that development and growing cities are not undermining environment, that there is coexistence, that those processes are streamlined and harmonized.
Right. From a Baku perspective, how do you think Nairobi's city planning and urban planning is so far in its cities? And borrowing from what Baku does, what do you think Nairobi should probably borrow?
I don't think I'm the right judge to offer this kind of opinion. One thing I can tell you for sure, also referring to experience of our capital and any other city, urban planning and development is never easy. You have to balance quite a number of issues. From one side, you want to enable and you want to encourage such development because it plays an important role for the country's development, economic, social. There is a whole lot of reasons that you want to see this process thriving and developing. Yet at the same time, it's very important to manage it accordingly. It's never perfect, it's never smooth, but as long as there is political will and determination to set things right, results can be managed in the best interest of individuals, communities, country in general. And we believe Baku and Nairobi have a lot to share, have a lot to discuss, have a lot to learn from each other, both from best practices as well as from the things that could have been possibly done slightly differently going into the future. And this discussion and this experience will be potentially of great interest to other countries and to other cities going through similar challenges or seeing similar opportunities. That's why it's not just politicians, it's not just basically abstract bureaucrats, but we're also talking about the dialogue of mayors, dialogue of people who are making decisions daily, defining or impacting development on the ground in urban areas.
All right. And as you rightfully put it, the people on ground being part of this conversation. But it's one thing too, because Nairobi and Baku are going to be getting into the World Urban Forum. And it will be a platform to benchmark what even other cities are doing and the conversations that are going to be there. But after the forum, the people on ground who are going to be actually implementing these policies that were said on the high-level meetings, how do we do a follow-up for Baku as well as Nairobi, the partnerships that are going to be there? Tell us about that.
I think this is really of crucial importance, and this is exactly something that I was referring to when saying that as important and as necessary as all those discussions are, they're only producing the impact desired when we see some follow-up and when we see implementation. Let me first emphasize that 2026 is a bit of a special year for urban planning and development, including for UN Habitat, which is a specialized UN agency dealing with this particular sector. There will be review of SDG 11, which is basically about urban development, about cities and cities development. And we do believe that both key events that you have mentioned, the one that will be taking place here in Nairobi next week, as well as the one to be taking place in Baku next month, they will be important part of a continuum of the process that will be resulting in specific decisions capable of making a difference for people, because we're not talking about some small number of people who are facing issues. We're talking about dozens of millions of people who either don't have proper housing conditions or whose housing conditions badly need improvement. So this is a fundamental issue. This is the issue of human rights. This is the issue of stability, and not just for Baku and Nairobi, of course, for any other place. Even if you're looking at the most developed countries and the most sophisticated capitals on earth, I mean, those countries or those cities are also facing issues. For the theme of the World Urban Forum, safe and resilient cities and communities, is, in my view, self-explanatory, because it sends a very strong message on what's relevant, on what's pertinent, of what people are looking for and what we all badly need. So talking to each other, learning from each other, including learning from things that were done but could have been done differently, or from some of the things that work perfectly well and will probably work in a different environment as well, adjusted as necessary. This is a practical value that we are after. And of course, UN Habitat being the designated UN agency in charge of the area, Nairobi also being the home to UNEP, is yet another reinforcing factor for that synergy to be maintained, for that synergy to be facilitated. There are many incarnations or many aspects that I don't want to bore you with, because they're probably a bit technical, but we do hope that World Urban Forum, building on the rich heritage of the previous forums of such nature, can make a step forward for us to be able to refer to some specific tangible achievements, to some differences, because that's what we aspire, that's what we strive for.
All right. Again, from Baku's perspective, what are your thoughts on how Baku's management is urban city planning of Baku and even other cities in Azerbaijan? Particular and a few thoughts on how these particular cities are run that the world should really know about.
Well, I believe there are a lot of things that we can be proud of, and there are a lot of things we can credit ourselves with, both when it comes to our capital, when it comes to some of our largest cities, as well as when it comes to our multi-billion reconstruction and rehabilitation program, which is currently implemented in the areas liberated from occupation.
Okay.
This is a major effort to bring life back to what was turned into the barren desert by the unfortunate developments. As I've mentioned, this was occupation as officially recognized by United Nations. But as we look into the future, and we are currently pursuing the path of peace, which is also something we're proud of, and we've made a huge progress in our relations with neighboring Armenia. We do believe that this can be yet another opportunity for the dialogue and development. Coming back to the city management, there are always things requiring improvement, and I believe that this is a perennial process. It's basically an infinite process, because as cities evolve, as cities develop, there are new challenges, and there are solutions, and then challenges again. But it's very important to be persistent. It's very important to follow certain rules and certain codes and regulations, particularly when we're talking about the large-scale investment. I believe quite a number of achievements that our capital and a number of cities in Baku have made could be of interest, not just for Nairobi, but for other cities of the continent. But it's not about us only showing and teaching, it's also about us learning from experience, which has been successfully applied in other countries. So I'm sure there are elements or mechanisms here in Nairobi, in some other African cities, that would come handy and would make a real difference in Baku or other cities. And let's not limit ourselves to Azerbaijan and Kenya only. It goes beyond regions, it goes beyond continents, and there are many aspects. As I said, we're talking about politicians, we were talking about senior leadership, we're talking about academicians, scientists, practitioners, bureaucrats, NGOs. For example, one of the segments that we will be organizing under the auspices of the African Urban Forum is actually Azerbaijan-Kenya NGO Forum, when we want to bring together representatives of non-government sector, discussing with them the roles that can be playing in supporting, accompanying, and if need be, informing some of the decisions on urban development, on city planning.
Right. And in this particular even list that you're mentioning, the politicians and academicians, where's the place of young people when it comes to the urban planning? Because, I mean, I am a young person, a Gen Z. I live in the city of Nairobi, and the challenges that the city faces are challenges that began many years ago, even before I was born. And I'm pretty sure it is the same in Baku and so many other cities. So it is a place of young people to redefine these particular challenges and come up with innovative solutions. So even for Kenya and Nairobi Baku partnership, what is the place of young people here?
Let me tell you one thing we definitely don't want to do, by all means, under no any circumstances, is to underestimate or to underplay needs and importance of role of young generation. Because the future belongs to them.
Yes.
And these cannot be words only. It's really important to hear young people, to understand their needs and expectations. Again, we must be realistic. It's not like young people come in, say how they want to see things done, and this will be immediately implemented, because it will do no good to anyone, including those young people themselves. However, participatory, engaging process, opportunity to communicate concerns, opportunity to put forward initiatives, making sure that those initiatives will be seriously reviewed and heard. This is at the heart of any successful engagement, of any successful discussion. That's why both during the African Urban Forum and by all means during the World Urban Forum, a role of youth, enabling environment for their contribution, opportunity for them to speak up, to express their expectations. This is definitely among our top priorities, and we will be definitely working on it, by all means.
Right. And Balozi, these young people tell you they have sharp ideas, but then again, as you say, it won't be an immediate thing. But one problem that they'll always say is the financial bit. Are you able to probably tell us if, when we have this Kenya-Azerbaijan NGO partnership, the financial partnership and financial aid to these young people, might we be able to see that?
Well, I mean, let's be very clear on what are our expectations from this forum. It's not a funding mechanism. At this point, it's a mechanism to enable young people from both countries. Well, of course, this will be mainly young people, but we're talking about representatives of the NGO sector, and some of them are more experienced, let's put it this way, more mature practitioners or activists working in the field. It's an opportunity for them to prioritize or to highlight what their key expectations are. But I fully agree with you, and in fact, I myself have been emphasizing it. Just stating issues will get us nowhere. It's really important to make sure that there is dialogue, there is readiness and willingness on both sides. Let me emphasize this aspect as well. On both sides, to hear each other, to understand each other. There will be a lot of proposals made, and it's quite clear not all of them can be implemented. However, there are most important, most burning, and in fact most efficient and effective proposals that should be looked at. When it comes to funding, of course these are issues to be looked at and resolved by the national government. However, providing or putting forward the enabling environment that will make sure that this process is taking place, this is probably our most realistically achievable target at this point. Of course, I mean, bringing together representatives from different countries, making sure that they benefit from each other's experience, including through reaching out to respective government institutions, including through those government institutions reacting or supporting some of the initiatives put forward. This is the most realistic way. Because it's very easy to say, yeah, let's get together, let's make proposals, and we will look at it. Well, first of all, I cannot speak for my Kenyan counterparts and friends. I mean, this is Kenya's internal issue. But it doesn't really matter which country it is. I think building the process, making sure that it's a sustainable one, and those issues are taken seriously, that's the most realistic and the most long-term impact-based results that we can be looking forward to.
All right. So for the young people out there, they should watch this particular space, and you know, the conversations that are going to be happening on matters.
They should be reaching out. They should be contributing. Those interested in the areas should be looking for the ways to engage. Should be looking for the ways to share their ideas. Of course, it's not going to be possible to accommodate everything at once, but it's an opportunity, it's a momentum. Maybe some of the people who will first show interest to this particular area on the eve of this event or in the course of this event, they will find their calling. Maybe urban planning and city development will be what they will be doing in 10, 20 years, working for governors' offices, for mayors' offices. Some of them will be probably mayors and governors, right? I mean, in all the parts of the world across the globe. That's why youth engagement is really, really important.
Right. Balozi, before we close this conversation, I'd like us to reminisce on and just go back to 2024, during the COP29, which Baku, Azerbaijan hosted. What lessons do you, and did you pick up from this particular COP29?
Well, COP29 was the biggest international event my country hosted so far. WOOF 13 is going to be big, but we don't think it will be as big as COP29. One thing that we can refer to, it's very important to be determined. It's very important to prioritize your goals, because managing exercise of such magnitude with so many different stakeholders who are at times guided by rather antagonistic kind of interest, and please don't get me wrong, I think it's totally understandable, but some of the things that are of great importance for some countries are not so relevant for others, and the other way around. That's why I believe it's really crucial to make sure that we are basically aiming high, but at the same time we are remaining healthily realistic. It's very important to build on existing results and push the envelope. However, again, in doing so, you have to be pragmatic, and you have to work with a wide range of people, and sometimes even those who do not necessarily immediately agree with you. This is also something that we are discussing with our friends and brothers from Turkey, which will be hosting COP this year. As you know, COP 31 will be taking place in Turkey in October this year. But it's something that we're continuously discussing with all the host countries that hosted COP. The same applies to those hosted WOOF. I mean, we are working closely with our friends from Egypt, and the previous World Urban Forum took place in Poland. The next one will be taking place in Mexico. So we want to build on their achievements. We want to offer results of our own, and then we want to see how this can be an ever-improving process, as I said, bringing some real benefits to the people we are hoping to support.
Right, and I love the fact that you're already forecasting the next climate talks in these different COPs. But the biggest conversations after a COP ends, in case you're watching us and you're wondering what are COPs, the Conference of Parties, after this particular climate talks and these particular pledges that were made, conversations are they going to be implemented in these particular countries? Your thoughts on that? I know you initially talked about how different countries need to really ensure that they implement this, whatever they say. But for COP29, the pledges that were made, your thoughts about implementing those pledges, as well as self-financing for a country. In COP29, your president had mentioned about that, how different countries should, as much as they are seeking, and particularly the global south, as much as they're seeking for climate financing, they should also ensure that they finance themselves so that they can fight the adverse effects of climate change. What are your thoughts about those two?
Yeah, I believe it's not one size fits all. This is something that we mentioned at the very beginning of our conversations, that it's really crucial to see decisions made implemented.
Okay.
However, it's not like one-man show, or in this case, it's not one state show, let's put it this way. As determined and as committed as any international event host can be, implementation depends on a wide range of partners. We, as a host of COP29, we did and we are continuously doing what depends on us to make sure that the most important decisions are implemented. But then again, we don't exist in the vacuum. You refer to the reference on the importance of the national ownership, and it is more pertinent than ever, because these days and expectations that someone will come and take care of your issues, I mean, it's not going to happen. Absolutely, there are some international mechanisms that are to be activated. There are certain commitments and obligations under those mechanisms. We see some of them being, well, if not questions, but not necessarily immediately prioritized by some of the members of the international community. So we have to carefully calibrate. We have to look at the wide range of issues. I believe Azerbaijan has continuously demonstrated strongest possible commitment, including through financial issues or financial obligations, to support to the extent possible. I mean, apart from issues directly related to COP, Azerbaijan was and remains an active donor in terms of international community, including through UN Habitat, including through UNEP, including from many other platforms. I believe we all have to do what we can, being where we are, and trying to join efforts and see what can reinforce those efforts. And in such case, we can be realistically optimistic, looking long term.
All right. One question for you here, Balozi, on our WhatsApp messages, 0793-267-279. Lina Ogachi says, good evening. Kindly ask the ambassador about the partnership between Kenya and Azerbaijan for entrepreneurs. I am a real estate entrepreneur and I'd really love to invest in Azerbaijan. For us, what lies in these particular partnerships?
Well, good evening and thanks for the question. Developing partnership or further strengthening ties between the two countries is one of the priorities for the embassy. Let me mention that I'm the very first ambassador of Azerbaijan to Kenya. There was never an embassy here before, so I had the honor of being Balozi Kwanza. So economic partnership, including private sector, of course, very much including private sector, moreover prioritizing it, is among the key issues, and we're working with a wide range of Kenyan institutions. There is a number of processes that are currently ongoing. I'm afraid the limits of the current interview will not allow me to speak on this at length, but should there be any specific proposals, should this lady has any particular ideas, we're more than happy to look into it. We're more than happy to discuss and facilitate contacts with respective institutions in Azerbaijan. And the same works the other way around. Quite a number of representatives of Azerbaijani business have visited Kenya, and there is a number of ongoing processes and discussions on how we can take the benefit of many of Fursa that Kenya is actually offering, opportunities that Kenya is offering, in making sure that those links or those partnerships are further strengthened.
Right. A second question for you here. Frank Otieno says, good evening, TV47. Thank you very much for hosting the ambassador of Azerbaijan to Kenya. Kindly ask him about the import and export tariffs and what he thinks about it. Should it be reduced from what it is at the moment?
I think this is yet another question that needs to be discussed in a more, should I say, specialized manner, let's put it this way, because I don't want to mislead or I don't want to misinform.
Okay.
If there are any practical proposals, I'll be more than happy to answer those questions. And our embassy is in Runda. You can Google us. I mean, you can basically reach out. And I mean, I will make sure that all such questions are responded simply because it's one of the reasons we're here. We need to facilitate and we need to ensure conducive environment for the partnership, because as excellent or as great as relations between Kenya and Azerbaijan are as a senior political level, it's really important to reinforce them for economic ties, for private sector, for business ventures, and this is something we're working on. We're not nearly where we should be, let me tell you, because I believe if we look at the number of opportunities that exist at both ends, and the functioning kind of ventures or mechanisms that are already there, the glass to me is definitely more empty than full. But I hope that we will get there gradually. Pole pole.
Pole
right?
pole.
Yeah.
So pole pole, as Balozi says. Balozi, we're due a short break. There are other couple of questions.
Oh, I'm getting popular, I guess, right?
For you, and particularly, there are entrepreneurs who really want to invest in Azerbaijan. But after this break, we're going to be coming back so that you can actually really tell us the history of the private sector between Azerbaijan and Kenya, who is investing more. Are Kenyan investors investing more in Azerbaijan, or is it vice versa? And should it be balanced scales? Okay. We're taking a short break. We'll be right back. We are discussing matters, urban forums and how we should really have this particular, better cities globally. Don't go too far.
From 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. here on TV47. Get to receive the Word of God in the comfort of your home. Live from Nairobi Grace Chapel in the leadership of Pastor Martin Mwirigi.
Whatever decisions you make today will affect your tomorrow, whether you like it or not.
Right, welcome back. This is Daily Report. My name is Stanley Nyirungita, and it is the segment for Green Fix, just talking about matters climate resilient cities, and this coming with the backdrop of Kenya expected to host the Africa Urban Forum next week. And then after that, next month, Azerbaijan, particularly in Baku, will be hosting the 13th World Urban Forum. And the ambassador for Azerbaijan to Kenya, Sultan Hajiev, has been with us for the past about 30 minutes or so, just telling us how Kenya and Azerbaijan share very strong ties. And Balozi, before we took a short break, quite a number of people, particularly from the business sector and the private sector, really curious how they can actually, come into Azerbaijan to invest. Kenyans are very big when it comes to, investing globally. They'd really go, for that. Tell us about so far, the history of investments and what you foresee this particular, even for this, forums, the two forums, how they're going to be opening doors for more investment.
Well, they say so far so good, but in this case, I don't think it is the case.
Why?
I believe there are so many opportunities that have not been yet availed of. And there are a lot of openings, there are a lot of doors, including some low-hanging fruits, which are yet to be fully utilized. And I'm really glad that there is such strong interest from our Kenyan friends here. I can tell you that it's very much reciprocated. A number of people in Azerbaijan are also looking at Kenya as a potential destination for investment, as potential destination of business. We are making quite a number of efforts to make sure that these people find each other, talk to each other, and as you rightly mentioned, the African Urban Forum as well as the World Urban Forum will also be an opportunity for business representatives from respective sectors to get to know each other, to hopefully identify opportunities for joint action, and then hopefully this will all reach the stage of some specific investment. I mean, there are a lot of things here in Kenya which are of immediate interest for Azerbaijani private sector representatives, and from, usual suspects like tea and coffee. Well, they're not suspects. This is what Kenya is really famous with, like tourism, but also some other areas like, for example, other sectors of agriculture, information, communication, technologies. There are many, many areas, many fields where we're working together, and we hope to do more. I mean, it's not necessarily falling on the private sector, but we also have some scholarship programs. We also have some government-to-government engagements. We have quite a number of institutions working together, sharing experience, like, for example, penitentiary. I mean, as kind of interesting as it may sound, but there are issues that are of common interest in terms of improving quality of services. I mean, if there are any specific, and let me repeat, if there are any specific proposals, if there are any queries, we'll be more than happy to look into them. Let me say right away, we will be unable to do so next week because of the African Urban Forum, because it will be wrong for me to make such commitment knowing we'll not be able to deliver. But comes the third week of April, I mean, whatever questions are there, I mean, we'll be more than happy to look into it, if need be, to meet some of those friends, I mean, to be more specific, and kind of relay them or put them in touch with respective institutions in Azerbaijan, because the potential is there.
Right. I'm going to be asking you the final question.
Final.
Then we wrap it up, because the other questions, you've answered them in a way. Shalmith Wanjuhi says, in Kenya, foreign investors often complain about the environment for doing business. For Kenyan investors who are going to be investing in Azerbaijan, what is the case for now environment and the environment to actually do business in your country?
It goes without saying that if there are any Kenyan businessmen who are seriously interested in making an investment, then it will be our pleasure to make sure that the most conducive, the most fertile environment is provided, actually, in terms of ease of doing business, in terms of transparency. There have been major achievements that Azerbaijan is proud of, which also shows when we look at the dynamics of the amount of foreign direct investment and the number of ratings in the internationally recognized institutions. Because for the countries that regained independence in 1991 following the collapse of the Soviet Union, and that was subjected to military aggression and occupation of the 20% of its territory. It's something that we've fully resolved only in 2023.
Right.
I believe we've made an incredible progress. I know it may sound wrong. I'm ambassador of Azerbaijan, and it's not. I'm not necessarily the most unbiased person to judge on the progress made. Of course, there are always areas requiring improvement, just like it is in any other place, in any other country. But once again, should there be someone who is coming up with a particular proposal, it's part of our job, basically, to make sure that it's looked at, and the most convenient and the most efficient itineraries are identified for turning it into functioning partnerships.
All right, thank you very much. Balozi, your final thoughts?
Most welcome. Thank you so much.
Right.
Final words?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Asante sana na shukuru. I think I've said more than I've been.
Hata sisi tumeshukuru sana.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Hata sisi tumeshukuru sana for your time. Thank you very much, Balozi. And, we are definitely welcome to the World Urban Forum all the way in Azerbaijan.
We covered far beyond the World Urban Forum, but it proves is the presence or existence of strong interest and opportunities, as I was mentioning. So thanks a lot for the opportunity to be here, and thanks a lot for this discussion. Happy Easter, by the way.
Happy Easter to you, and happy Easter to everyone who is watching us. Frank Otieno says, thank you very much for hosting Balozi. He's answered a question that I wanted to ask about the tariffs, and he says that he will be coming to your office.
By all means, I mean, let's just make sure that it's properly prepared, because the last thing I want to happen is someone comes, I'm physically not there. I mean, let's just make sure that it's properly prepped and I'm able to honor my commitments, the ones that I've just made here for your TV station. But we are open and we are willing to have this conversation, diving into details and trying to identify the entry points.
Right. Another one here, Zimzim, I'm watching all the way from Tanzania. Thank you very much for hosting the ambassador. We also hope to have such conversations here in Tanzania. Karibu sana kwetu Tanzania.
Asante, thanks a lot. One thing that I can say, although I know that Tanzania is just like Kenya, this is a Swahili-speaking space.
Yes.
And, well, hopefully one day.
All right. Asante sana, and have yourself a very good night. Catherine Simaloi was on sign language interpretation. I am Stanley Yeringita. Goodbye.